In these past few days, I've been thinking a lot about my cousin Declan, and so I thought I'd tell you about it. Now, Declan is the nephew of my Uncle Vincent, who is married into my direct blood family, so I'm not sure if he's my cousin removed or cousin by marriage, but my cousin Declan. Declan was a very quiet man. I think in all of our families we have men who say little. I think this is probably universal. There may even be some men here who say little. Declan would almost always be at all of the family gatherings, certainly the ones I went to, but he wouldn't say much. A quiet man. He worked in, he didn't have much education, but he worked as a forklift truck driver. Do you know what that is? In a warehouse where you take pallets from here and you put them there, and you take them from there and you put them onto the truck, and so on and so forth. And he did that for many years. He would often just stand when there were family gatherings. Nothing malevolent in what he did, nothing sinister, just quiet. He had a beautiful family. His wife Mairead, a wonderful, wonderful woman from the south of Ireland. My family from Ireland, and Declan lived in the northern part of Ireland, in what's called Northern Ireland on the maps. But in the north of Ireland, he lived in a little village. But Mairead was from the south of Ireland. She was full of energy and she is full of energy, full of all of the conversation that he didn't have, she would have. And they have three beautiful daughters, Siobhan, Nuala, and Finola. And every day Declan would cycle the 5 miles from their little house to the warehouse where he worked. The last time I saw him must be getting on for 17 years ago, and we were at a wedding, and I said, if you spoke to him, he would answer you. And I said, oh, how are you, Declan? It's a long time since I saw you. And we got talking, and I said, Declan, why have you given these names to your daughter? To your daughters? There was Irish names that you could possibly find. And we had the longest conversation we ever had, and he told me that his dream was that one day there would be true peace in the north of Ireland. But the way of achieving that peace was for the Catholic population to embrace their culture, for the Protestant population to embrace their culture, rejoice in it, be proud of it, not try and be triumphalist over it. And so he wanted to make sure his daughters all spoke Irish, and he dreamed that one day they would have jobs that didn't mean they spent 12 hours a day moving pallets from here to there, to the truck. He had a dream for his family, he had a dream for the country he lived in, but he was a silent man. It may not be a surprise to you to know that Declan's second name was Joseph. Declan Joseph was his name. I was here when I heard the news that he'd been diagnosed with cancer. By the time he went to the doctor, it was very far advanced, because silent men don't complain, and he'd left it too late. He died very quickly at the age of 42, leaving this family behind. In the small towns and villages of Ireland, the tradition is that people who know you, the neighbours, your friends, your family, walk behind the coffin. So there's often a few dozen people who make the journey from the church to the graveyard. There were 300 people walking behind Declan's hearse, and the shops in the village closed, and people came and they stood with their heads bowed as the hearse went past. Because one of the things about people who do not speak is they never say a bad word about anyone. so he had no enemies in the village. He was a silent man who lived a noble life and dreamed dreams. Now Joseph, who we celebrate today, was a silent man. There's not a single word he speaks in the Gospels, not one. We hear in the Gospel today the account of the birth of Jesus really from Joseph's perspective. As you heard, he finds out that Mary is pregnant. He's an honourable man, so he decides to quietly let her go aside, not cause a public scandal, not have her stoned in the market square. Quietly put it aside. And then the angel of the Lord comes to him in a dream and says to him, "Do not be afraid. The child that Mary is carrying comes from the Holy Spirit. You will call him Jesus, and he will be the remedy for the sins of the people. Do not be afraid." And when Joseph awoke, he did as the angel of the Lord had commanded him and took his wife into his home. And we hear something very similar after the birth of Jesus. Joseph is sleeping and he receives the warning to leave his home, take his family and take refuge in Egypt, to save his family from the murderous persecution of Herod. And when he wakes, he does as the angel commanded him, and he takes his family to safety. We all have dreams. Whether we remember them or not, we all have dreams. And mostly they're not particularly important. They're not really about important things. Dreams are the weird and wonderful way that our mind cleanses itself of all of the stimuli we've received during the preceding day. And when we sleep, the mind runs over them, brings calm to all of the contradictory images. And when we awake, some people try to elicit some meaning from their dreams. Sometimes they tell you about it in great detail. Sometimes we find ourselves remembering sitting down with purple dinosaurs who have green spots and drinking tea and crumpets with them while listening to the radio. I never quite figured out what the meaning of that dream was for me, but I eventually put it down to having had too much cheese just before I went to sleep. But sometimes our dreams do have significance, because they can tell us about our deepest aspirations. They can tell us our most noble aspirations. Here in the United States, there are people who are known as dreamers. These are young people who dream of the day when they will have a stable stake in the country they've grown up in. That the instability, the uncertainty of their lives will be replaced by stability and foundations that they can build on. And may God grant that day comes soon for them. Because some of our dreams do have great significance, because they can tell us things we don't discover when we're awake, or they can confirm things that we thought when we were awake. And sometimes we have daydreams which tell us things when we are awake. At their best, they can give us visions of peace. They can give us visions of happiness, of love. They can give us visions of a brighter future. And we need to be capable of listening to them, of being able to discern when what we are dreaming, what we are envisioning, has a greater purpose. Woe betide anyone who bases their life on a dream of purple dinosaurs with green spots. But if your dream tells you about peace and harmony in your family, in your life, in the world, then I'd suggest it's worth listening to and acting upon. We need to be able to be capable of listening to our dreams, because they may tell us something good we should follow. When Joseph awoke, he did as the angel of the Lord had commanded him and took his wife into his home. And the rest of the Christian story is history. Pope Francis said on this feast day a few years ago, a saint is someone who has the ability to dream, because when we dream great things, when we dream good things, we draw near to God's dream. We draw near to what God dreams about us. Powerful stuff. So I wish you a very happy feast of St. Joseph. Our church is decorated specially as bear yesterday, because it's Lent. And all yesterday afternoon, our brother Tadeo went and took flowers. All of these flowers come from around the property. Went and took the flowers and arranged the church. It was beautiful. Tomorrow, all that will be gone. We'll be back to Lent. So I wish you a happy feast of St. Joseph, the spouse of Mary, the father figure in Jesus' life. St. Joseph, the silent dreamer.